Hi, Bo here from High Tech Investment, and we are back with another video here for the Money 3. Last time we did a little video is a couple of weeks ago, and we've done quite a few of them in the last couple of months since we started testing the Money 3. Last time when we tested here was this particular video we sent out where disaster hit the Money 3, and that basically covered two items in here. First one was that we took a bit of a hit. It actually managed to have 5 trades open, and they all went against us, 2 different currency pairs. And then on top of that, we basically went into the settings that we had set up for this particular EA, and we lost about 30% of what we had in the account at that given time. Now we wanted to have a closer look and see exactly how the developers did, and we noticed that the developers didn't take exactly the same trades as we did, and there were some discrepancies in there, and those are the ones that we're going to go over today, because we now believe we have the answers to the questions that we didn't have previously, and we're going to go through them step by step in this short little video here. So you can obviously find more information on the Money Tree on our website itself. If you haven't seen any of the previous videos, we definitely want to make sure that you go to the playlist in the video description below, and you can find everything about it ever since we started off. But in here we have set up 2 FX blue links, and one is for the Blaze broker, which is the recommended one for this particular EA, and the other one is for IG, just to try a different broker to see if there's any differences in here. There is some, and we covered that in the last video I just showed you here before. But the idea here is actually to go through and find out exactly the discrepancies of them themselves. So just a quick look at it back here. We had our Blaze broker. It did a few $100s, so over time, as you can see, since we started off back in January. And then we hit a big issue here. I lost more than 3,000 for that particular week here. And also the same thing happened on the IG broker, very similar ones, trades that simply we couldn't get out of. And the currency pairs we were doing here were trending. And we simply ended up with the stop loss that is within this EA of 30% of the account itself. We're going to come back to that a bit later on in the video, but first we're going to have a look and see exactly also how the Leapfx broker did, because they also have a certified site. So when we have a look at the Leapfx certified site here, we can see the track records are verified, and trading privileges are also verified in this particular one. They had a bit of a drawdown here, a bit of a drawdown, more than a drawdown actually. They lost 20% of the account. That was the settings that they had. They were quite a bit different from ours, and we explained exactly why that was. So we actually made it over the first hump here, but unfortunately the second part we didn't. But as you can see, it's trading quite nicely, and it's actually recovered, more than recovered what it lost at the given time here. So obviously we wanted to have a look and see why exactly they did okay, while we had some issues along the way. And you can obviously go in and you can dissect that page. There's quite a few things in there. We have just cooked it down to a very simple understanding here. So the February loss that they took was the hit that we didn't have, but they did. They recovered some of it back in February. And then you can see in March, the EA did very well for the developer side here, more than 20%. And on top of that, you can also see the different holding times, so for the different currencies. And you can see they traded Euro USD, British Pounds USD, New Zealand CAD, New Zealand USD, and then USD Japanese. And it's obviously here that we found a couple of discrepancies in here, because we noticed that they didn't trade. The US Swiss francs was missing. And on top of that, they actually also traded the one down in green here, US Japanese. And those 2 ones is ones that we didn't have on our trading. So if we have a look at the Blaze broker itself, we only gonna look at the Blaze broker. That is the best one to basically confer up against the Leapfx site here. And this is the same one that we took out for the previous video just to show and explain to you exactly what has happened here. So we put a couple of different numbers on the different type of trades, and you can see they have different colors in here. So we're starting off with the number 1, where we had no issues, and no issues basically means we have the same trades on both accounts here. So both from our own Blaze account and also from the developer's account. And on top of this, we go to number 2. You can see also here you have New Zealand USD and New Zealand CAD in here. And those were also similar trades that we had all the way through. So no big concerns on these particular ones. Now, I mentioned earlier that the developers had a crash on their EA, and we didn't, basically because we had slightly different settings in here, and we explained all that in our previous video. Now it comes to the Aussie Swiss francs in here, and we did have a setting on the 3rd of February, so this actually goes quite far back. And this particular setting was one that we entered into, and the other, basically Leapfx, didn't because of the crash itself they had. So they actually managed to avoid this particular one. So that is the reason why there's a difference due to the trading. So basically because of the crash back in February that the developers had. Now, on top of that, we also noticed here that the second one, the USD Swiss francs, was completely missing, and they didn't have any trading records of that at all. And that is actually what we had at a discrepancy, and what exactly we wanted to have a closer look at. So if we have a look at Leapfx's site here, we have all the different trades, and again, the ones below the red line doesn't really count. So because we have analyzed those before, not an issue. The ones with the red dot you can see here is the ones from previous page. Those are also good. Those seems to match up, and the same thing for the Euro USD up here at the end of the day. So what we are looking at here is 0.6 and 7, and 0.6 is all the USD Japanese that has been set, 5 in total, so 4 down here and 1 up top here. And then we have number 7, so which covers the British pounds USD and Euro USD, and actually in here 2 times. So basically we asked ourselves here that Leapfx account seems to have been trading the US Japanese on their account as it didn't trade the US Swiss francs at the time. So it means, again, because of the 0.4 that I showed you here before, Leapfx took these particular trades instead that we didn't do, but there's obviously a bit more to it than just that, and definitely we're going to cover that one also here through the video. On top of this, Euro USD and British pounds USD could not be traded at that particular time. So because again, we had max trades open, so that actually explains why these were not particularly taken at the time. We had only 5 trades open that we would allow, as you saw on the previous page. So those are the things, and those are the breakdowns that basically we just need to dissect a bit more. When you look at the manual itself, the manual you get when you buy the EA, we basically go to the setup section in here and have just taken this particular part out where it says the pairs to open. And as you can see in here, there's quite a few pairs. You can see the USD Swiss francs is actually the first one that is there. This is the one that Leapfx didn't have in here, and we had the trades that unfortunately went against us here. And then you can see all the other different pairs that you have in here, covering everything. There was up to 17 in here, and on the Blaze broker we actually had all 17. On the IG broker, we only have 16 because the broker didn't support one of the currency pairs in here. And that might also be different from your broker that you're using. Now you'll notice here that we set all this up as per the manual because we had a certain expectation that in order to make sure that we could get exactly the same trades as on the Leapfx website, and we could compare apples to apples, it would be very easy. And that's also why we traded every single currency pair straight off the bat. But it now shows here also, as you can see in here, that the US Japanese is missing. So obviously that is the reason why we didn't take the trades at the time. And we also had to go back and just check if we missed some information. but we didn't, and it actually shows that the Leapfx used the USD Japanese, but it's not actually in the manual itself. So we reach out to the developers to try and just understand these two things. So basically, why didn't they trade the USD Swiss francs, and why did they trade the USD Japanese when this is not part of the training manual itself? And the emails that we have received, we couldn't find any information in there either. Luckily, they were kind enough to come back to us after they had a chance to just understand exactly the issues that I had when I was trading this. And I highlighted the two sections in here that basically explains a bit about it. So if you go to the yellow part, section 2 here, says they checked our accounts and our USD Swiss francs pair was closed for some time, most likely by accident. So it sounds like that they had actually disabled it by accident for somehow. And that's exactly why the USD Swiss francs did never do any trading. So on that particular time. On top of this, we obviously also asked them again, the US Japanese, where did that come from? And they mentioned in here that we are running the pair, but it wasn't in the manual as we removed it a while ago because volatility was off and we were testing it and should put it back in. So obviously that explains why, well, we know why we didn't take the trade itself, but it now explains also why Leapfx on their site had the USD Japanese in here. And obviously we couldn't find anything on that particular one. So if anybody has the money tree and they have an old manual, feel free to reach out to us and show us that this was actually in there before. But it obviously makes sense now that everything has been explained in here. But it has also created a big confusion, not just for us. We can see there's many other people that didn't exactly understand why the trades were not exactly matching up. And one of the things that definitely Leapfx could have done in order to maybe avoid some of the confusion, because we have an assumption, of course, that we are trading the same thing, so we should have the same results. And I think that is the assumption of many people that we spoke to here. One of the good ways is actually, this is an email, so back from March, showing some of the same trades that we took. Which is great, of course, to see that we have exactly the same as the developers. That means that the EA is working. But in here, it would be a great idea, of course, also to just mention exactly which ones are actually being traded, which currencies are being traded. Maybe also a bit on the settings, so people will understand exactly why things are either the same or why things are very much different, similar to what we saw here, because that is always a concern. Most people, including us, we wanted to trade exactly the same way as the developers to verify and double check that all the accounts that we have seen in here, that the trades are exactly the same, maybe not the lot size, but everything else should or could be very, very similar. So one of the things that they could do definitely to ease up is give a bit of information on a weekly basis on what is actually being traded, and maybe avoid using that particular account as a test account, as you saw here with the Japanese currency that nobody else seems to have, and people are wondering, okay, what is happening now? So if you have a look at the settings itself, and these are the ones that we had ever since the beginning, we can see again that the lot size we set up was 0.2. Stop loss balance is basically 30% of the overall balance that you are trading is 30%. And we had max orders set at 5. Obviously, max orders also have a big influence on exactly which trades you are taking, if you are taking the same ones as the developers or not. Because if the developers has that max order set to 8 or 10 and you have 5, obviously again you end up with different trading whatsoever, and vice versa. So if again you set your max orders to 10 and then Leapfx has it as a standard here at 5, again that would mean that you would take more trades. It could be positive, could be negative, but again you will have an overall very different results from the developer's site itself. And again, lot sizing, just emphasize that they have basically made 3 different settings. So if you are trading $500 or less, you use the top part up here, and they have divided that into low, medium, and high risk. Same thing if you are trading $1,000 to $2,000. We are down here in the 3,000 to 5,000, basically because we have a $10,000 account. And that also means that that's why we do low risk, but we are using 0.2 in the lot size itself. So, and that is providing our results. So in order to accommodate for the changes in here, so we have now asked the developers if we could add the US Japanese to that particular currency pairs that we are allowed to trade, and we have done that. You can see that in here. These are all the accounts that we have, and previously we had 17 accounts in here. Now with the USD Japanese on the 50-minute chart, as you see here, that is now up and running, and obviously that is now part of the testing procedure itself. We have that, and then as you can see here also we have the FX Blue account here. This is the one that are combining all the different details for all these trades so that you can see them in one particular site. So as you can see, there's explanations for everything in here. Obviously, sometimes it takes a bit of help and assistance to figure out exactly what has gone wrong and why things are different. And that, as we said, developers here has been very helpful to figure exactly out why that particular one is, and the explanation certainly makes sense to us in here. But obviously, in order to help the clients of their EA, I do suggest in the future so that they try to send out an email making sure that everybody has the right currency pair set up, exactly how they trade this particular certified file, because people would want to look exactly to see and want to have the same trade as they do. But if you don't know exactly the settings itself they have, or the currency pairs that you are trading, you will never really end up with the same trades or with the same results. And that is, I believe, where a lot of people get confused and doesn't think that things are working correctly. But obviously we can see that we have all the trades in there. It seems to be working quite well. And now that we understand the discrepancies in this particular one here, there's only a few other things that can be basically managed. And that is, again, as we mentioned here before, the drawdown phase, basically 20-30%, whatever it is. You can see our settings is 30%. We do believe that developers is 20% because we saw that crash back in February, and that was around the 20% mark where they lost from the account itself. So obviously it would be good if they could clarify that, if they change it from week to week. And obviously also at the same time could advise maybe on the open trades they have, so people could actually adjust and their settings to it. And if they feel that they don't want to change them, they don't feel like they want to take the risk itself, then obviously they can stay at whatever settings they are comfortable with. But then they also have to understand you're not getting the same results, you're not getting the same profit and loss necessarily as on the certified side. So I hope all this makes perfect sense to you. We have a couple of ideas of how you could actually trade the money tree in the future, and definitely not the way we are doing it now, but this is part of the testing process. You have to start off with all the different currencies, and then I believe we will make a video later on when we have enough information as to how you can actually improve some of your results and increase your profits over time. So I hope to see you on one of my future videos. Bye-bye.